The drink slipped from her hand before she could stop it. It happened so fast. 1 second she was turning, trying to apologize for bumping into someone. The next, cold liquid splashed across his shirt. Dark fabric. Expensive. Tailored. Ruined instantly. A few drops hit the floor. The glass didn't fall, but the silence between them did. The music kept playing. People kept laughing. But in that small space between them, everything paused. Kang Jae-hyun looked down slowly at his shirt. Then back up at her. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Amara said quickly, grabbing napkins from the counter, her movements rushed, slightly clumsy. I didn't mean to, I wasn't looking. She wasn't trying to be cute. Wasn't trying to soften the moment. There was no calculated charm. Just genuine panic. And concern. I can clean it, well, not clean it but, okay that sounded worse, she stopped herself, exhaling. I'm really sorry. Jae-hyun stared at her for a second longer than expected. Not at the stain. Not at the mess. At her. Because she wasn't looking at him like everyone else did. No recognition. No curiosity. No shift in behavior. Just, human. It's all right, he said calmly. You sure? That looks expensive. It's just a shirt. She frowned slightly. That's not just a shirt. That's a someone is going to be upset later shirt. That made something in his expression shift. Barely. But enough. I'll survive. I feel like you're saying that to make me feel better. Maybe I am. She let out a small breath, shoulders relaxing just a little. Still. I owe you one. You don't. I do. He tilted his head slightly. And how do you plan to repay me? She blinked. I didn't think that far ahead. That made him almost smile. Almost. And in that moment, without either of them realizing it, something started. Not loud. Not obvious. But undeniable. Because in a room full of people trying to impress him, she was the only one who didn't care. And that was the beginning of everything. Before we go any further, if you enjoy stories filled with drama, love, betrayal, and unexpected connections, make sure you hit subscribe, like the video, and drop a comment. Have you ever made a mistake that changed everything? Because this one, it was only the beginning. The music pulsed through the penthouse, wrapping around conversations and laughter like a constant heartbeat. Suni stood near the center of it all, watching, adjusting, making sure everything flowed perfectly. Drinks are running low, someone fix that, she called out, then turned just in time to see Jae-hyun. There you are, she said, walking over with a grin. I was starting to think you'd cancel again. I considered it. You always consider it. And yet, I'm here. She looked him over carefully. You already look like you're planning your escape. Give me an hour. 2, she corrected. You owe me at least that. He didn't argue. But his attention had already shifted. Back toward the bar. Back toward her. Amara was still standing there, shaking her head at herself. I cannot believe I just did that, she muttered. Her friend laughed. You spilled a drink. It's not the end of the world. On a stranger. A very calm stranger. That makes it worse. She glanced back. And caught him looking. Just for a second. Then he looked away. But that second. It lingered. Later, their conversation picked up again like nothing had interrupted it. So, Jae-hyun said, do you usually make memorable first impressions? Amara folded her arms slightly, amused. Only when I'm not trying. That seems effective. I'd prefer less chaos. I'm not sure. It worked in your favor. She raised an eyebrow. Did it? I'm still talking to you. That caught her off guard slightly. Fair point. What do you do? He asked. Student nurse, she replied. And I work at a coffee shop. Both? Yeah. That's a lot. I don't like being idle. No complaints. She shrugged. What would complaining change? That answer stayed with him. More than it should have. And you? She asked. I run a company. She tilted her head. That sounds vague on purpose. It is. Why? Because most people react differently when they know more. She studied him for a moment. And you don't want that? Not tonight. She nodded slowly. Fair enough. The night moved forward. The energy shifted. And eventually. All right. Suni clapped loudly. Everyone gather, truth or dare. Groans filled the room. No backing out, she added. People gathered. Saturday. Laughed. The game started light. Then. Jae-hyun, Suni said with a grin. Dare. He leaned back slightly. Let's hear it. I dare you to pick any woman here, and take her on a date. The reaction was immediate. Eyes turned. Silence followed. And without hesitation. He looked directly at Amara. I choose her. The room froze. Amara blinked. Then shook her head gently. I can't. Why not? Suni asked. Amara didn't look away. I have a boyfriend. The words landed clearly. Firm. Final. Jae-hyun nodded once. Understood. But something inside him shifted. Not disappointment. Not frustration. Something deeper. Interest. If you're still watching, drop a comment that says, first impression, and don't forget to like, because this story, it's only getting started. And what comes next changes everything. The room slowly came back to life after that moment. Laughter resumed. Music filled the silence. But something had changed. People kept glancing at Amara. At Jae-hyun. At the space between them. She really said no, someone whispered. She has a boyfriend, another replied. Still. Amara felt it. The attention. The quiet judgment. But she ignored it. She had done nothing wrong. At least, that's what she told herself. Jae-hyun leaned back slightly, watching her from across the circle. Not staring. Just observing. The way she didn't try to recover the moment. Didn't try to explain herself. Didn't try to impress him after the fact. She simply moved on. Like it wasn't a big deal. And that stayed with him more than the rejection itself. A few rounds later, she stood up quietly. "I'm heading out," she said to Suni. Suni frowned slightly. "Already? I have an early shift." "That's your excuse for everything." "It's a good one." Suni looked at her closely, then nodded. "Text me when you get home." "I will." Amara grabbed her bag. For a second, she hesitated. Her eyes flickered across the room, landing briefly on Jae-hyun. Then she looked away. And left. Jae-hyun noticed immediately. He didn't move. Didn't react outwardly. But his attention followed her absence. The door closing. The shift in energy. The quiet space she left behind. Minutes later, he found Suni near the balcony. She left. Suni raised an eyebrow. "You noticed?" "I want her number." Suni let out a short laugh. "Of course you do. I'm serious." "So am I." "The answer is no. I'm not asking for anything inappropriate." "I know. That's not the issue." "Then what is?" "She already said no." "Respect that." "I am respecting it." "Then let it go." He looked at her, calm but firm. "I don't usually let things go." Suni smirked slightly. "Then this is a great opportunity for growth." A brief silence settled between them. Then Jae-hyun exhaled. "Fine." But his tone said otherwise. The rest of the night blurred. Conversations came and went. People tried to engage him. He responded politely. But his focus wasn't there. It kept drifting. Back to the bar. Back to the moment. Back to her. Later that night. In his apartment. The city light stretched endlessly outside his window. Jae-hyun stood still, loosening his tie slowly. His reflection stared back at him. Calm. Composed. Controlled. But his mind wasn't. And that was unusual. He replayed the moment. The spill. Her apology. Her laugh. Her refusal. He had been rejected before. Of course he had. But never like that. Never without calculation. Never without hesitation. Never without curiosity. And somehow, that made it impossible to ignore. Across the city, Amara sat on her bed, scrolling through her phone. Her mind wasn't on social media. It was on the party. On the moment. On him. She frowned slightly. Why was she thinking about it this much? "You said no," she muttered to herself. That's it. But something about the way he looked at her. Not offended. Not arrogant. Just interested. It lingered. And she didn't like that it lingered. Her phone buzzed. Her boyfriend. She answered. "Hey. Where are you?" His voice came through, slightly distracted. Home. I told you I had that party. Oh. Right. A pause. You sound off, he said. I'm just tired. You're always tired. I work and study. What do you expect? Another pause. Yeah. I know. His tone felt distant. Like he wasn't fully there. You okay? She asked. Yeah. Just busy. With what? Work stuff. She nodded slowly, even though he couldn't see her. Okay. They spoke for a few more minutes. But the conversation felt thin. Like something was missing. Like something had been missing for a while. The next morning, Jae-hyun sat in the back seat of his car, scrolling through reports. His assistant spoke from the front. You have a meeting at 10, lunch at 1, and a call with investors at 4. Move the lunch. To when? Tomorrow. Noted. He nodded slightly, then looked out the window. Lost for a second. Sir, his assistant said. Yes. You've read the same page 3 times. A small pause. Then. Drive. Days passed. Then weeks. Life returned to routine. On the surface. But not completely. Jae-hyun found himself walking into a coffee shop one morning. No reason. No meeting nearby. No schedule requiring it. Just instinct. Flat white, he said absent-mindedly. Name. He froze. That voice. He looked up. And there she was. Amara. Hair tied back. Apron on. Looking just as surprised. You again, she said. And you. There was a brief pause. Then she smiled slightly. Still recovering from the drink incident. Barely. She laughed softly. And just like that, the tension melted into familiarity. You work here? He asked. Yeah. I didn't expect that. What did you expect? I'm not sure. Well, now you know. She handed him his drink. Careful. It's hot. I'll try not to spill it this time. That would be impressive. A small silence followed. But it wasn't uncomfortable. Just unspoken. Can I ask you something? He said. She nodded. Why didn't you hesitate? About what? Saying no. She blinked. Then looked down briefly. I told you. I have a boyfriend. That's not what I'm asking. She hesitated. Then sighed softly. Because if I had hesitated, it would have meant something. And that would have been a problem. Yes. Their eyes met for a second. And in that second, there was honesty. Real, quiet honesty. He nodded slightly. Fair enough. Another pause. Then. Can I get your number? He asked. She smiled faintly. Still gentle. Still firm. I still have a boyfriend. Another no. But this time, it didn't feel like rejection. It felt like timing. As he walked away, Something told him this wasn't over. And he was right. If you're still watching, drop a comment that says, "Second meeting," and don't forget to like and subscribe, because from here, everything starts to unravel. And not in the way you expect. Jae-hyun didn't go straight back to his car. That alone was unusual. He stepped out of the coffee shop, paused on the sidewalk, then looked back through the glass. Amara was already moving again, taking orders, smiling politely, focused on work like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just been there. Like he wasn't someone who had just asked for her number, again. And been rejected, again. He let out a quiet breath. Interesting, he muttered to himself. Then he walked away. Inside the cafe, Amara tried to focus. 2 cappuccinos, someone called. Coming, she replied quickly. But her mind wasn't on the orders. It kept drifting. Back to him. Back to the way he asked, not arrogantly, not expectantly, but simply, like he meant it. And the way he accepted her answer. No pressure. No attitude. No ego. That part bothered her the most. Because she was used to men reacting differently. Her phone buzzed in her apron. She ignored it. Then it buzzed again. And again. She stepped aside, pulling it out. Her boyfriend. 3 missed calls. A message. Asterisk, call me back. Asterisk. She frowned slightly. Something about the tone felt off. That evening, she sat across from him at a small restaurant. He barely looked up from his phone. "You've been quiet," she said. "I've just been busy." "You're always busy." "That's because I work." She held his gaze. "So do I." He didn't respond. Just kept scrolling. The silence stretched. Uncomfortable. Heavy. "Did I do something?" she asked finally. He sighed, putting his phone down with slight irritation. "Why do you always do that?" "Do what?" "Make everything into a problem." "I'm asking a question. And I'm telling you there's no problem." "But there is," she said quietly. "You're distant." He leaned back in his chair. "Amara, I'm tired." "I am too. So let's not do this." "Do what?" "Communicate." His expression hardened slightly. "See? This is what I mean." She stared at him. Confused. Frustrated. Hurt. "I'm just trying to understand what's going on." "Nothing is going on." But his eyes didn't match his words. And she saw it. Even if she didn't fully understand it yet. Across the city, Jae-hyun sat in his office, reviewing documents. His assistant stood nearby. "There's a flagged report in the employee conduct file," she said. "Which department?" "Operations." He nodded. "Send it." A few seconds later, the file appeared on his screen. He opened it casually. Scrolling. Reading. Then. He paused. A name. Familiar. He leaned forward slightly. Reading again. Amara's boyfriend. His employee. His expression didn't change. But his focus sharpened instantly. "What's this about?" he asked. "Internal complaint," his assistant replied. "Unprofessional behavior." "Define unprofessional." A pause. "Inappropriate relationship with a coworker." Silence. Jae-hyun's eyes moved slowly across the screen. Message logs. Time stamps. Details. Patterns. It wasn't just a rumor. It was consistent. Repeated. Clear. "Leave," he said quietly. His assistant hesitated. "Sir." "Leave." She nodded and stepped out. The office went silent. Too quiet. Jae-hyun leaned back in his chair, staring at the screen. Then away from it. His jaw tightened slightly. Not out of jealousy. Not yet. But something else. Disapproval. Disgust. Because he had seen this before. Men who lived double lives. Men who took loyalty, and treated it like it meant nothing. He thought about telling her. The thought came quickly. Naturally. But just as quickly. He dismissed it. Because how would that look? A man she barely knew. Showing up with information about her boyfriend? It would feel invasive. Calculated. Manipulative. Even if it wasn't. So he closed the file. For now. Back at the restaurant. Amara stirred her drink slowly. "Do you still want this?" she asked quietly. Her boyfriend looked up, slightly annoyed. "What?" "This," she gestured between them. "Us." He frowned. "Where is this coming from?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I just feel like I'm the only one here sometimes." "That's not true." "Then why does it feel like it is?" He didn't answer immediately. And that silence said everything. "Amara," he said finally, "you're overthinking." Her chest tightened. "I'm not." "You are." "I'm telling you how I feel. And I'm telling you there's nothing to worry about." She looked at him for a long moment. Then nodded slowly. "Okay." But she didn't believe him. Not completely. Days passed. Then a week. Then 2. Amara kept showing up to work. Smiling. Helping customers. Living her routine. But something had shifted. Subtly. She checked her phone more often. Not for messages from her boyfriend. But for signs. For reassurance. For something that felt real. And then. One night. Everything broke. She was sitting beside him on the couch. He had fallen asleep. His phone buzzed. Once. Twice. 3 times. She glanced at it. Then looked away. Then back again. Her heart started beating faster. She told herself not to. Not to check. Not to invade. Not to cross that line. But something inside her. Something that had been building for weeks. Pushed her forward. She picked up the phone. Unlocked it. And saw the messages. At first. She didn't understand. Then she read more. Scrolled. Read again. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't questionable. It was clear. Explicit. Undeniable. Her chest tightened. Her vision blurred. But she kept reading. Like she needed to hurt herself with the truth. Who is this? Her voice came out quieter than she expected. But it woke him. He blinked, confused. Then saw the phone in her hand. And everything changed. "What are you doing with my phone?" he asked sharply. Amara looked at him. Tears already forming. "Who is this?" He sat up slowly. Irritated. Not guilty. Just irritated. "It's exactly what it looks like." The words hit her like a physical force. No, it's not," she said quickly. "Tell me it's not." He ran a hand through his hair. Clearly annoyed. "Amara, don't start." "Don't start," her voice broke. "I'm reading messages between you and another woman. What do you mean don't start?" He sighed. Like she was the problem. "You went through my phone." "Answer the question." Silence. Then. "It's nothing serious." Her heart dropped. "Nothing serious?" "Yeah. You're cheating on me." He didn't deny it. Didn't correct her. Didn't soften it. He just looked at her. Unbothered. And that was worse than anything else. If you're still watching, drop a comment that says, "This just got real," and don't forget to like and subscribe, because what happens next? This is where everything falls apart, completely. Stay tuned for part 2, expect more drama, more confrontations, and the start of a budding romance.